Welcome to Shorty's SuperCoach. Today we're going to be having a look at the Gold Coast Suns as part of Shorty's Shortlist, where we take a bit of a look at each club individually and focus in on some of the best SuperCoach picks for 2016. Not always your most obvious ones, because everyone really knows the absolute obvious guys who perform year in, year out. We're going to have a look at a few players who offer value or a bit of point of difference, or about to burst out and really cement themselves. And perhaps the first one off our ranks here is an exception to what I've just said, the main man, Gary Ablett. By the way, the Suns have quite a few picks that I've been looking at. I mean, some may bust and really hurt us, but I really think at this point in time, they offer quite a bit of potential, and there's a few worth discussing. But first, straight off the bat, Gary Ablett, there's no doubt about it. Finally, we don't have that headache of thinking, do we pick Gary Ablett? Is he worth the price tag? Do I get him after he drops? Will he have a poor start? What's his first few fixtures like? Not at all. He's $623,200. Could be cheaper. He didn't get the discount, which I was a bit disappointed by, but he's pretty cheap regardless. Thank God for that 21 in the in round 17. A lot of super coaches would have been absolutely riddled with that one, because at the time, a few would have had him. I think he just came off 189, and many would have had him as the pure captain. He would have got you 42. But now we can look back on that and thank it, because it's brought his average down to 115.5 off the 6 games. So that makes him all of a sudden affordable for Gary Ablett anyway. At least he's not bursting past that 700k, which he has in the past. It's the cheapest we can get him since 2008. Obviously last year he had that shoulder injury, which really, he was out of the action for a long time. Longer than expected, with heaps of queries over his captaincy, pain tolerance and individualism. But then he got injured with the knee, so obviously monitored his pre-season, but he's back and training. He's training well. He's apparently over everything that he's had, and I guess the query at one point was, will Gaz be as good with this shoulder thing? Do shoulders ever fully get back to 100%? Well, I think that 189 and just dominating really put that to rest. He's still the best player in the comp. He's one of the best players of all time when his career finishes, so you just pay that price tag as far as I'm concerned. Every year we have that debate, whether is it worth getting him initially, like do we wait a bit, do you take the risk? It's always a gamble, do you, don't you? You just get him. A lot of people say that anyway, but at that price tag, don't even muck around, just get him straight away. Another prodigy, or another young one at least, Jaeger O'Meara. He'll be quite a discussion point, I feel, over the pre-season for SuperCoach. Now, he missed all of last year with what was called a horrific knee injury. At times I was reading articles, he was even thought to be doubtful to ever play again, or at least how long it would be. It was an injury that's normally associated with American footballers, so a really unique one, and it put him out of action for a long time. Even so, that there's still talk of, how is he tracking for round 1 sort of thing. His fitness is not going to be absolutely where we would like it, but his value is exactly where we would like it. Check out his first 2 years in the AFL. Do they get better than this? He's averaged 21 touches, 5 tackles a game. He's even kicked 27 goals from his 44 games. So he finds plenty of the pill, and as we've seen, he wins it on the outside and on the inside. So he's exactly what we want. Averaged 90.7 in his first year, 2013. 2014, 97.7, which is an unbelievable second year average. And of course last year didn't play a game. So off the back of that, we see his price around that 315k mark, which is extremely good, and he offers great value. My one question mark on him will be, how fit is he, and will we be seeing his best footy this year? Because that's an iffy price tag. I mean, it's fairly cheap that you can probably take that risk, but we do need him to go up in value, and you probably need that 90 plus average, no doubt. So we'll just have to track him. I think he, obviously by the name, you look at O'Meara, you lock him in. But just be careful and be wary of how he is tracking through pre-season, and make sure that he is absolutely locked in for round 1 come February. No dramas about that. He's playing NAB challenge, he's getting fit, match fitness, because that's what we need. We can't have him sort of half cooked in there, so that's important. I'll take a couple of look at 2 halfback flankers now, Nick Malcheski and Cade Kolajasny. We'll start with Malcheski, the senior of the two. Now, he was the rage in 2014, average 105.4, just dominated at the Swans. Then he made the switch over to Gold Coast, and it wasn't the same. Was he found out a little bit for maybe laying off his opponents that he could do at Sydney? Probably. Was he maybe not working hard enough? Was he injured? Maybe a bit of both. Did he not expect or mould into how he had thought he may? Potentially. But whatever the case, he averaged 71.1, which was just terrible. He has had a tendency to be a bit of a roller coaster ride though. I'll read out his averages since 2007, which was his breakout year. Averaged 101. Then 66, 51.5, 96.4, he's back in business in 10, 67.8, 75.5, massive drop-offs. Then 2013, he's back with 90.8, and the 14 average I mentioned, and obviously he's down again with 71.1. So you've got to really be concerned about that. In theory, Malcheski's the perfect guy we want to pick. He's a good kick, an effective kick, likes to laugh his man, run and carry, the sort of player the clubs want the ball in that sort of guy's hand. But the worry is that he does have a tendency. This isn't one-off. This isn't, Malcheski changed clubs, took him a little bit to get involved, he'll be back. He has had a roller coaster ride throughout his scoring career. So it's something to really look out for. He did end the year with 120 and 108 points. So it was better. I mean, he showed that he still has that scoring ability, I suppose. He is 31 years of age. You know, I think you can probably mount a pretty good case for him because given that average, he's very, very cheap. I think he may well be under 400k, I think. But he's very cheap for what he can do. The question is, will he do it? Probably in the back line, you might warrant the risk. So he's definitely on my radar at the moment, but I'll be looking to see what role he plays through the pre-season, as will Kolodjasny, his potential counterpart. Can you pick two half-back flankers from the same team? It's not normally something you would do because historically there's only really one guy who rebounds out of defence and really scores consistently week to week. You might have a guy who bobs up at times and is really efficient and, you know, averages, you know, nicely 85, but to get that real 95 guy, there's generally only one, unless they're in an absolute gun team and they just find plenty of the ball, play that style. So Kolodjasny had a fantastic year, runner-up in the best and fairest, averaged 89.4. And was really playing off that half-back line, just really run and carry, backed himself. He too is a beautiful kick. Some really nice stats too. He loves to kick. He averaged 14.6, ranked 20th in the league for total kicks, and ranked 6th in total rebound 50s. So he plays that role very well. The question I would be having is he going to hold that place with Malcheski back in business? I guess you could mount the case that he did do it in conjunction with Malcheski playing, so I guess we don't have to worry as much about that. But there is a lot of Gold Coast players to come back. They were destroyed by injuries last year, as we saw. Just they could almost field a team of injured players. There were that many out, just about 22 plus of their best players out, which was unbelievable. So where does Kolodjasny fit in? Was he a beneficiary of some players out of their role and he stepped up? Is he going to keep that spot? That'll be something that only pre-season can answer, and potentially someone very brave would only pick him. But he's a guy I'll be really looking at. That 89.4, you might say, is that really what we want? But check out after the bye. Played 11 games, averaged 96.4. And he is capable of racking up very, very big numbers. No doubt he's capable of that. A high draft pick, so there's plenty of talent there, and he's a man I think we should seriously consider. Looking through the defenders at this point in time, there's not a stack that jump off the page. There's a few guys that we've looked at in the past and have at times been very good, but also average those low 80s, your Hibbards, your Birchells, your Brodie Smith, for example. Kolodjasny could be the next big thing. This could be a guy that we look at picking down the track and wish we could have that defender status next to his name. He may lose it. He may become a midfielder. So he's a guy that I'm going to be looking very close at, and definitely one that is, well, he's got plenty of potential to be an extremely good scorer. Just turning over the page here, they're probably the main ones for Gold Coast. Well, I beg to differ, actually. That's absolutely incorrect because I've missed my main man. I can't believe I didn't see him on the other page there. Dion Prestia is a guy that I absolutely have been red hot on since his debut. I've loved him, but especially I was looking at him last year, and fortunately for me, I didn't pick him. Unfortunately for him, he got injured after what was, a very impressive start. Before he got injured, he was averaging 107, and then I think he scored 58 or 59 or something, and he missed the rest of the year, which was extremely disappointing with a knee injury. He dominates. I mean, he averages 27 touches, 5 tackles, 12 contested possessions. In those 7 games, he averaged 8.5 clearances, which is unbelievable. So he's been around for a little bit. He's a high pick. I think he was pick 9 back in 2010. 2013, really good year, 97.5 average. Bumped up to 106 in 2014 and was looking along those lines again last year until he got injured, and that 107 average got affected by the injury score, brings it down to 101. This is a man that I really believe is capable of averaging 110 in 2016. Don't muck around with that. I really do think that he could go big this year, and I think he'll be unique. Don't worry about the fact that Ablett will or will not be there. He's shown in the past that he can do it. He averaged 104 without him towards the end of last year and throughout. Low score of 92 throughout the period. Don't worry about it. He doesn't mind a tag. He wins the ball on the inside, and he can be damaging on the outside. He's one of my favourites, and at this point in time he's locked into my side. So definitely have a look at Prestia. I wish I didn't have to tell you, but I guess, as trying to be a fantasy guru, I guess you got to give away a few secrets. But I think Prestia is a guy that not many will look at. He's like the Suns. He's out of our eyes, I guess, down here in Victoria. But I think he's definitely a guy I'll be looking at closely. As I said, there's plenty of Gold Coast players to go through. I've been talking for at least 10 minutes already, and there's still a few I want to get to. Jesse Lonergan, not so much maybe for this year, but he's a guy I rate very highly. 183 centimetres, 91 kilos. Big-bodied midfielder, wins 50% of his ball in a contested situation. High pick back in 2012. Found his feet off the half-back line and also some tagging roles. He watched Pritis very closely and Betts and Ballantyne throughout last year. I think this could be the year that, if given the opportunity, and again it just relies on a bit of injury and who's available and things through the midfield. If he steps into the midfield, I really expect him to be a solid scorer and have plenty of upside. Would you pick him this year? It's probably doubtful, but I think he's definitely one to have a look at, and maybe a sneaky pick for your draft. A similar tone goes for Tom Nichols, who back in 2013 averaged around that 90 mark, I think it was. But if you take out his injury that he had in his 8th game, off those 7 games he had 2013, averaged 99.5, so he can definitely score. He'll be up against Peter Wright, Brooksby, Dan Curry, no Zach Smith, so I guess that opens up a player that potentially, is there an opening there? Possibly. He did play the 15 games last year and didn't set the world on fire, but he could be someone that could burst out, and perhaps if he can get back to that 2013 form, he might be able to average around that 100 mark. If he goes up that bracket, he's probably got to lift his game a bit, but there's opportunity there. Dan Curry, who I just mentioned, he'll be at 163k. If he can get the opportunity, similar to Nichols, he'll be bursting against one another, I suppose. You wouldn't think that would work in tandem, but Curry has been under the best ruckman in the comp for some time in Goldstein. He'll be looking to get an opportunity, and he could be a nice ruck 3 option. And I'll just finish with a couple of midfielders. David Swallow, he'll be around that 415k mark. Averaged 85.8 from his 6 games. 103.2 in 2014. Had that breakout year. And we know that he can run through the midfield and be an extremely good player. Former #1 pick, as we know. And at that price, I'm just not sure if he's got the ability to really go to that 110 mark. I can see him averaging similar to 2014, but we can only select him as a pure midfielder. So I think at that point, I'm pretty sure 2014 we could get him as a defender, which was absolutely brilliant. At that price, he probably doesn't offer amazing value, nor does he offer the potential to be absolute top 10 mid, top 12 mid. So perhaps a pass, but worth looking at for sure. Aaron Hall, a very unique one, and perhaps some might go, Aaron Hall, surely not, mate. But he's at 430k. He can be selected as a forward or a midfielder, which is juicy. And he only averaged 79.3. I'm not convincing you yet, am I? But here we go. After round 17, so round 17 to 23, he averaged 114.4, 27.3 touches. He was an absolute beneficiary of those injuries and really improved and went into that midfield and showed what he could do. He had a poor start. He was out of the side in round 8. He returned in round 14, got cracking, found his midfield role, and when he did, those numbers, they were unbelievable. So if you're really backing Aaron Hall and you feel that he can keep that midfield spot, get that midfield time, even with those other guys coming back, he's a guy you might look at. At 430k, if there's not too many forwards that you're already really sold on, that average from round 17 to round 23, you've got to consider, because that's a reasonable sample size, and he dominated. Some big scores. There weren't too many stinkers in there. I think he dropped to around that 80 mark, but there were some big scores. He can find plenty of the ball, and he's got to be one to look at, and perhaps even in your draft leagues, one that not everyone's heard about. So one to look out for, no doubt. But that's about a wrap up for the Suns, I think. plenty of names to think about. As I said, at this point in time, they all offer a bit of value, plenty of potential when we're trying to crystal ball at this point in time. Probably come season start, you may only have a few in there, but I really do think they're all worth considering. So plenty more SuperCoach content coming your way, so give the channel a subscribe, give the video a like if you enjoyed it. If you got any comments on what I've been talking about or any Gold Coast players I missed, certainly let me know, give me some feedback, and as I said, keep clicking back because there's plenty of SuperCoach content coming your way.